Colin, I'm telling you, this is so exciting to have you on, joining us all the way from the UK, my friend. How's everything going, man?
Everything's going really, really well. Getting very excited. We're coming over to the States in about a week's time. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You're coming over here to the States, going to be touring, doing some shows with Brian Wilson. How exciting is that? This is going to be such a cool deal. Talk about how exciting it's going to be to come over here, do this tour with Brian, and kind of what's your connection with Brian? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've known him over the years. The Beach Boys, obviously huge, around the same time as the Zombies, but just talk about your connection to Brian and how exciting it is doing this tour together.
Absolutely. Well, we did play with the Beach Boys in the 60s. Sadly, Brian had already retired from touring at that point.
Yeah.
So I didn't meet Brian, actually, until the early 2000s, say 15 or 16 years ago, I met Brian. I'm a huge fan of his work. Of course, the Beach Boys are one of the most important contemporary bands, from the 60s onwards. They just were such an important band with some of their classic albums, and they were driven by the writing, arranging, and production of Brian Wilson. He is a huge, iconic star, and I'm really thrilled to be on the same bill as him and to be opening for his band. And actually, we know quite a few of the guys in his band as well. They're a wonderful band, and I think that there's going to be a great feeling of camaraderie backstage. I think it's going to be a really exciting tour, but also a great fun tour as well.
Well, what a treat for the fans to be able, and I believe Al Jardine is going to be touring here with Brian this summer, which is amazing, another original Beach Boys member, and to have you guys out there and the hits and the songs, it's just such a staple of the time. It's going to be awesome to have you guys here, but that doesn't end there for you guys, Colin, because you guys are going to be going on some cruises too. You've got the Flower Power Cruise with the Hollies, the Turtles, Herman's Hermits. Do you guys like doing the cruises? I mean, those are becoming more popular. Are those kind of a fun time for you? Kind of a different format, but it's got to be fun for you and the fans.
It really has, because, well, actually, we're doing two cruises next year, because we're doing one called On the Blue, which started off as a Moody Blues headlining the tour, but last year and this year, it's just Justin Hayward is the headline act, really, and then we're doing that tour with him, but we're also, as you just said, we're doing the Flower Power tour as well, and it's very interesting for us, because when you do these music-themed tours, firstly, you're on a huge ship. I mean, it's like a sailing city. It's absolutely huge. There's music from 12 till 12 if you want it, but because the ships are so big, if you want a period of peace and quiet, of course you can find that as well. But from our point of view, it's one of those rare opportunities where we're actually living with our audience. When the On the Blue cruise that we're doing is for 7 days, so we will be living with the audience. We'll have breakfast with the audience. We'll spend the day with anyone who's walking around who's not actually in a concert. We'll spend time with them. And I think it's interesting for the audience as well, because they get to know all the bands. On all these cruises, there are many music-themed cruises, but they really get to know the bands because they're living with them.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, Colin, we can't go any further without mentioning big congratulations to you and to the Zombies for being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame here in 2019. Just talk about that, because you guys have been nominated, I think, four or five times in the past. It finally happened this year. March 29th, you guys went in. Just kind of what were the emotions surrounding that? And now that you've had a few months to kind of look back on it, what was that kind of like for you guys? And just it just must be an amazing feeling for you and for the Zombie fans. It's really for the fans as well, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. In the public vote, we got 328,000 votes from the public to support us. And the public vote takes place over a period of months. It's never going to happen. We're not going to be inducted. And then to finally be inducted, it was so exciting. As I just said, firstly, after the support from all our wonderful fans, but then to get the recognition from our peer group, from our fellow musicians, to show that they have been following what we've done and they do appreciate to some extent what we've been doing as well. That's a great lift for an artist to get that recognition from their fellow artists. It's absolutely wonderful. And of course, the crowning glory was the ceremony at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn in front of 17,000 people. Wonderful acts: Def Leppard, Janet Jackson, Roxy Music, Radiohead, The Cure, Stevie Nicks. All these wonderful acts were all inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and a highlight for me was Susanna Hoss from the Bangles made the induction speech for the Zombies, and she gave such a wonderful speech, incredibly emotional. I mean, there wasn't a dry eye around the whole hall when she'd finished. She spoke so well, and then eventually we went to the stage. We were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we sang 3 or 4 songs. It was great fun, and what a perfect evening. It was absolutely wonderful.
I'm so happy for you guys, and congratulations again, Colin. It's just amazing. And you know, it's funny when you look at you guys going in, it kind of makes you look at artists that maybe aren't in, that could be in. You think about, I think Dave Clark 5 went in about 10 years ago, and then you have Tommy James and the Shondells and Herman's Hermits that still aren't in. It's just kind of crazy to think that, because to me, both those acts should absolutely be in there. What are your thoughts on those two?
Well, I think this is always going to happen, because they only induct 5 or 6, and actually this year I think they inducted 7 acts. There are always going to be worthy acts that haven't been inducted, but I think, you know, like us, that everyone just has to be patient, and I'm sure that most acts will be inducted. That, you know, everyone knows who the ones are that should be inducted. I'm sure they will eventually be inducted. There is a degree of luck involved in all this to finally get that recognition, but I like to think that all the ones who truly deserve it will get it in the end, and I just hope that they can be patient in the meantime while they're waiting. It's not easy, of course. Everyone wants to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but hopefully they can wait with hope and patience, and they'll be rewarded in the same way that we were.
Yes, very well said. And you know, talk about how important the last 15 years or so have been for you and the Zombies, because I mean, obviously, after your initial run in the United States and coming over and having hits early in your career, the band kind of parted ways. You did a lot of other things. You had a solo career. You were with Alan Parsons Project, but the last 15 years to kind of reform the Zombies and to be out there and still playing these songs, and to have made an album together back in 2015, which has still got that hunger. How important do you think that the last 15 years has been for you guys, just visibility-wise, and maybe even getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Kind of, that couldn't have hurt either.
Of course not. Originally I got back together again with Rod Argent, who was the original keyboard player in the Zombies. Now, we've worked together over the years, usually with him producing my solo albums, which have been quite successful chart-wise in the UK and in Europe. Sadly, they've never been successful in the States, but that's what I've been doing over the last few years. And then I got together with Rod, and we thought we were just going to play 6 concerts for fun, and we enjoyed it so much. See, you can't make plans in this life, because it was 6 concerts, and now here we are 20 years later, and we enjoyed it so much we just kept playing, and gradually we started extending what was in the first place quite a small fan base, until now we can play all around the world, but especially in America. We love to come back and play in America, and we're playing the music we love. I'm traveling with my mates, with my pals. What could be better? It's just a wonderful adventure, and it's so unexpected, because from just those 6 dates, I thought that was it was going to end. And now here we are nearly 20 years later, just having a wonderful sort of resurgence of interest in the Zombies repertoire. And when we first got back together again, we didn't realize how much interest worldwide there is in the Zombies. We were really taken by surprise. When we first played together, we didn't use the name The Zombies. We didn't play many zombie tunes. We both had solo careers, and we were playing music that we'd done more recently. And we were just amazed at the interest there was in the Zombies. So gradually we played more and more zombie tunes, because we were encouraged to do it. And then after about 7 or 8 years, we thought, listen, we're playing a zombie concert. We might as well call ourselves the Zombies. That's what we're doing. And we talk through with the other surviving original members who gave it their blessing. And so it took us 7 or 8 years, but I suppose we reformed the Zombies in a way. It was never our intention to do that. But, the Zombies ride again. And here we are. It's even more thrilling because it's so unexpected, the success that we've had. And we both really, really appreciate it that at this time in our lives, we're able to go out and play the music we love and just have a great time.
Well, could you have foreseen anything like this? I mean, kind of joining the Zombies around 1962 and the British invasion, coming to America, kind of the foundations of rock and roll music. For back then, could you have even foreseen yourself in this position at this point in your life? Because and it says so much about the music that Peter Noon and Herman's Hermits can still go out there, that the Beach Boys are still a viable act, that still go out there, the Tommy James, who I just saw and he just had on this show. It says so much about the music that you guys created that you can still do this at this point in your lives. And could you have ever foreseen that, back in your teenage years and early 20s?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, when the band first came together, the common link is we all went to school in it's quite a small town called St. Albans. It's about 25 miles north of London. And I couldn't see us playing outside of that town when we first started. Or just, a sort of a 10-mile radius or something like that. I thought this was just for fun, and we would just play locally. But gradually, back in the 60s, we built up a fan base. We won a big rock and roll competition, which led to a record deal. And we made a record. I wasn't expecting any of this. And that first record was called She's Not There. And it went to #1 in Cashbox in the States, but #2 or #3 in Billboard. And it was a huge hit. None of that was expected. So, even just the first few years took me by surprise. But to think that 50 years later, we're still playing live to huge audiences and still making records, and our last album got into the Billboard Top 100. None of this was expected at all. It's all been a constant surprise to me. It's been great.
Oh, it really has. And I'm just so happy for the success. This is the kind of music, I'm 35 years old, Colin, but I grew up on this music. My dad showed me all these bands, and it just has always been such a inspiration to me. And I'm such a huge fan. Now, as we go back to kind of the genesis, you talked about not being sure that you'd ever play outside of your own town. Talk about what it was like coming to America for the first time. Do you have any stories or anything that happened that first time you came over? I know a lot of bands were doing it at that time. What was it like back then for you guys?
Well, I think we were slightly intimidated because for us, we worshipped the rock and roll greats, and they were all American. When you think back to Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Elvis, these were the people that motivated us to play music and to form a band. So we were coming to the home of rock and roll. We were coming to the home of rhythm and blues and the blues. This is where, to us, all the great artists had played and written their music in the States. So we were a little bit on edge about coming over because we just hoped that we would be good enough. But when we first came over, we actually had the national #1 record when we arrived, and we played a show in New York called the Murray the K Show. He was a very important, influential DJ who put these Christmas shows together at the Brooklyn Fox. And he would have 15 or 16 acts on the bill, and you would only play 1 or 2 songs, but of course with 15 or 16 acts, that's like 30 songs. The show lasts quite a long time, even with you only doing 1 or 2 songs. And so we arrived, and we were apprehensive as to how the American audience would respond to us, and of course how the American artists would respond to us. But they were absolutely fantastic, both audience and artists. We opened on Christmas Day in 1964, and the first show was at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we played 5 or 6 shows during the day. But of course we only played 2 songs, but we had to be there the whole time. And backstage there was a wonderful camaraderie because everyone was away from home over Christmas, because this show went on for 10 days, starting on Christmas Day. And it was a really great feeling backstage, and we made some very firm, solid friends on that first trip to America. And of course, since then we've been coming back regularly, and and now this incarnation of the Zombies, we always seem to come at least 3 times a year to the States. We play in the States more than we play in the UK. It's a kind of a strange story, really, but for the last 10 or 15 years, we've been coming 3 times a year and really loving it.
Well, we can't wait to catch you guys out here on this tour. I think for myself, I'm going to hit the Vegas gig on August 31st because, I always need an excuse to go out there. So I'm going to check you guys out there. Call on the website for anyone that wants to check out the tour dates. It's thezombiesmusic.com. You can get all the information on the news and the tour dates. Colin, I tell you what, this means the world to us. I can't thank you enough for taking the time and joining us kind of later in the evening there in the UK and coming on to talk with us today. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And, of course, I hope all your listeners will come into this place. It's going to be a really great show. We're really looking forward to coming over to the States and playing for all you guys again. Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Colin. Take care, my friend.
Okay, mate. All the best. Bye.